You are listening to Hit Play, Not Pause, a feisty menopause podcast for active, performance-minded women. I am your host, Celine Yeager. Each week, I bring you advice from athletes, scientists, researchers, and other experts to help you feel and perform your best, no matter what your hormones are doing. This show is a production of Live Feisty Media. Hello, strong, feisty women. So, what's the first thing that comes to mind when I say the words self-acceptance? If you're like many active, goal-driven women, a little or maybe a big part of you thinks, well, self-acceptance sounds kind of like giving up. Because many of us have been conditioned to believe that when there's a will, there's a way. And if we just train hard enough, sacrifice enough, turn ourselves inside out enough, we can achieve our desired results. And to be fair, that has likely often been true. Hard work, sacrifice, all those things have often rewarded us in our active and athletic lives. But when we hit midlife and menopause, that hard work equals specific results equation can kind of go out the window. And it's frustrating, which is one of the reasons I started the show and why we're all here. But it's important to recognize that while there are plenty of actions, we talk about them all the time, that we can take to make a difference in how we perform and feel during and beyond the menopause transition, we can't control everything. And what does that mean for our mental state? What does that mean for how we approach our active pursuits and our life at large? And those are the questions that this week's guest, longtime friend of all things feisty menopause, Dr. Maria Luque, spends an awful lot of time thinking about. She is passionate about helping women in midlife reimagine exercise and body image and well-being. And now she's doing that work with the likes of Halle as her personal menopause coach and a coach at Halle's women's menopause health company, Respin. And when I heard that news, I knew I had to have Maria back on to talk about it all, and it did not disappoint. For those new to Maria, she's been around the menopause space long before it blew up to what it is now. She's a former health science professor, and she did her dissertation on menopause-related issues, and she has a lot of thoughts and perspectives here, and I just loved this conversation. I always love talking to her, so I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. I will obviously put links in the show notes so you can find all about Maria and her work in this area. All right, before we get to it, give us a follow at Feisty Menopause on Instagram and Facebook. Come on over and join our private Hit Play Not Pause Facebook group and head into the show notes and click on the link to sign up for my free weekly Feisty 40 Plus newsletter with all the research, nutrition, and training, etc. news you can use. Thanks, as always, for those 5-star ratings and great reviews. I really appreciate them. If you like the show, please share it with a friend. It really helps us continue to grow. Finally, a very quick thanks to NutriSense for their continued support of the show. If you need a dietitian to help you sort through your nutrition, NutriSense has some insurance-covered services to help you out. So thank you, NutriSense, for your continued support. All right, enough of me. Let's have a few words about those awesome sponsors and get on with the show. Okay, Maria, welcome back to Hit Play Not Pause. It's always a pleasure to catch up with you.
Celine, it's always a pleasure to be here. I love our conversations. They're always so exciting.
Speaking of exciting, you have had some stuff going on since we last talked, and we need to talk about it. You have to tell me how you became Halle Berry's menopause coach, because when I saw that headline, I was like, what has happened? That is amazing. So how did that happen?
I just we met up last year already. We've at Respin, we've been on the down low for about a year, trying to figure out this platform and trying it out with a group. So last year in I think March or something, Halle, the CEO of Respin, reached out to me because they were trying to get coaches on, and we had a conversation, and their philosophy and mission just really aligned with what I personally am doing with women. And then I met Halle, and that all clicked really well. Again, it just clicked. Like what they're trying to do and we're trying to do now is just what I've been trying to do with women on a smaller scale, right? Just give them education. And so when we started our MVP, which is we invited our first cohort of women to try out what we're trying to do with the health education, she wanted to go through the process of it all to really experience what we're doing. And because she's going through it herself, she wanted to see what it's like. So she picked me to be her menopause coach because I don't know. I mean, I think I'm just really fun. I don't know. Um, so and then since then that's how it went, and we've been in contact. You know, she's went through the whole cohort, and it's been really fun. But so everything really organic. It just fit what she is trying to do with Respin and what she's trying to do as a person and what she wants to do and learn for herself as a perimenopausal woman is what I've been trying to do. And I think just how we are, our philosophy mission aligns and my energy aligns with hers. And so that's how it ended up being.
I heard her talking, I can't remember with who, on some interview show where she was talking about lifting. And I'm
Mhm.
wondering if you had something to do with that, where she was maybe a little afraid of the whole, I don't want to get big, I don't want to get bulky muscles sort of thing, but she seems to be on board now.
Yeah, I think what's really fun about it is that, Halle's really going through like I said, she's going through the same learning process as we all are going, saying, maybe I need to switch what I've been doing. If I've had a lot of cardio to stay, what we've learned, right? Cardiovascular, we're staying thin, which is staying in that body that we're supposed to be as women. And we've always been taught you just could do more cardio and do lighter weights and that. And that is just not the truth anymore. We know this, where women benefit from heavier lifting. And she's really into it. She's just really into learning more about having to change what she needs to do from a physical perspective and aligning that with where she is right now, which is exactly the narrative that we've all, right? We all are talking about how what's worked for you in the past doesn't necessarily serve you in this stage of life.
So tell us about Respin. What is it? I've seen the app, I've looked at the site, but how did it originate and what's the mission there?
So Respin is Halle's vision to help women educate themselves more about menopause and to have a community. So those two things being critical to the mission itself, education and community, which we know is the crucial point.
All about it.
And the fact that we are not trying to sell a solution for a person, we're trying to help them find their solution. So equipping them with science backed, and this is the big difference between whatever else is out there. Everything that we are teaching, it has to have some science background. We have Elizabeth, who is our science head. She's in charge of anything that has to be proved that goes onto our platform and that we are coaching with. So the tools that we're coaching with has to be science backed. So if anyone's saying whatever, I'm just saying turmeric does this, that, she'll be the one to say, well, we don't have enough science to support XYZ. May work, but we're not teaching or using that as a platform from a science perspective. And I think that that's the big difference between a lot of other platforms where maybe there's some questionable things being shared. And not to say that things aren't working, right? But it has to be science backed. And then the health education part, the coaching part, the behavior part, which is we as coaches are just there to help women, equip them with the knowledge that is there that we know has some science behind it, and to listen to their stories and to help them find what works for them. So anything from MHT to supplements to physical activities, sex, like the sexual wellness and all of that. We're covering all the topics. Nothing is taboo. And the community part is such a crucial piece of it. When women get together in cohorts, and so that's another crucial part. So
I was going to ask that.
our members are, when you sign up, you get biweekly group coaching with the coach of your choice. So there's 5 of us that are currently on there, and but based on availability and time of day, what works for you. People get to pick their coach, and then we're meeting every other week in that group cohort to just have the benefit of going through learning the learning process, but also a big part is the sharing part. Just you probably know the power of sharing and the shared experience, the magic that happens every time. It gives me goosebumps every single time I meet with a group of women. So there's the individualized coaching that people get by individually coaching with us, and then the group part, and then the community part. So it's, I mean, it's a full health behavior kind of compound.
So if I come into the platform, do I get to pick my coach? Is it assigned to me? If you are my coach, do we have like a one-on-one? Like what does that look like in practical terms?
Yeah, so that's a good question. When you come in, there's a big intake. So you go through a thorough intake on what your needs are, and then you are assigned, or you get a initial health plan based on your intake. Then you pick your coach. So we have bios, we have a little intro, so people get to know the style. I have a completely different style and personality and expertise than the other coaches. So I'm not the right coach for everyone, just like the people that go with me probably are not the right. So people pick their coach, and then it's also based on availability. I can only do so many, and I can only do so many hours. And so my availability might not align with what other people need. So then if the first preference coach, then availability, and if not, you pick a different coach. And then you meet with the coach one-on-one to go over your health plan and adjust if needed, because you can only catch so many things in an intake. And so you get to actually sit down and say, well, tell me how it really is. What's your life look like? What is your main goal? How do we adjust the habits? And then people get a health plan based on that. And it's really based on just including habits that will go towards their goal. And then that can be changed. So it's a fluid model. We start out here, we work through this plan just like in any other one. And then if it works, wonderful, based on the data, you track it. And if it doesn't, let's see how we can adjust it so it does work. And if it has worked, let's take that off and put something else in there to keep you progressing in the right direction. So I love it for all that stands, because it isn't here's your package. Good luck with the 12-week program you just bought, and see how it works.
So within that, you're calling it a health plan. Is training, strength training, resistance training under that umbrella?
It is. So it is. You have to think that because this is a overarching platform, it depends on the person's goal. So if someone comes in and they're saying, my main issue are hot flashes, or, I want to that, based on that, that plan will change. But if someone comes in and just says, we find out you need to just start moving, or you've already been moving and we need to up your strength training, or you need to go into high intensity. So it is really, really personalized. And that's what I mean by the actual coaching part is such a critical component to this platform that it's unmatched. There's just nothing like it out there, because we need coaches. It's the one-on-one part.
Are there common challenges or roadblocks that you see across the women that you've worked with so far?
Movement. I
Just
think
getting moving is a
I
challenge.
think I think movement is a big one, because we do know that movement is so critical in anything. If we take that piece and master that piece, which is a hard one to master, then other things fall into place. And my belief around this. I think strength training is, especially strength training, but the movement part itself. We are lying to women by telling them that they need to do all this detail work of just, you need to do this many minutes of this thing, and then do another this many minutes of that, when most women are just not moving enough. And so when you fine tune something that hasn't been, I always compare it to a house. Like people are picking out their curtains before they put the foundation down on their house. Worry about the curtains, which are your high intensity in your zone 2, and the exact minutes of the breakdown of how long you should be in your dry sauna versus the wet sauna versus the cold plunge versus the, I
Yeah.
mean, whoa. Yes. So I think movement is a critical part to it, but also just honestly the education part of it all. When you give women real education that isn't based on selling them something else like a solution, then it's a pure education. There's no ulterior motive to selling the supplement that you just said you need to have. You just give them a buffet. We're saying this piece of the buffet, this is why we're recommending, and this is what the science is behind it, and you get all the knowledge. So women get to really learn why, and they get access to all the science behind it as well. Education, here's why we're recommending. Not to say that this is the solution for you, but just know that that's there.
Yep.
And then you pick your own plate.
Are women receptive to strength training at this point? Are more receptive, I should say, than maybe in years past when we were coming up?
Oh, 100%. But receptive and ready are two very different things. I
Hmm.
think that a lot of women know that they should and they want to, but they're just not, they don't know how they can come from here to there. That is that gap. It's almost like a chasm. It's this huge space between here and there, and they get paralyzed by that.
Hmm.
I know I should do it, and then you get, the narrative out there is that's so simple. Just start lifting some weights, and it really isn't. Again, it comes down to you can't help women to strength train if they're not even doing basic movement every day. It's just not
Right.
realistic. And so getting women scared about lifting weights when they're not using their own body weight, and we know that is resistance training. That's the first step into resistance training is your body. And then we move forward whenever you're
Yep.
ready for that. So I think that that's the big holdup. I think women want to, but they are paralyzed by all the fear mongering and the simplicity that is being sold. It's very simple. Here's your 6-week plan on to get into strength training and get toned and whatever. Let's hack it.
Long, lean muscles. Let's get toned. Um, Dear Lord. No, I mean, you bring up really good points that if you have never initiated a hip hinge, if you've never done a squat, if you've never done those very fundamental moves, it's going to be a huge challenge to integrate any weights into the equation or just even to get into a gym, right? Without a lot of intimidation and confusion.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point, the gym part. So many women feel that that's the only way they can do resistance training is to go into a gym, and by
Mm.
that, or they're already out.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
envisioning CrossFit gyms, or envisioning big dumbbells and lots of mirrors everywhere, and guys that are intimidated. And then, social media, if you go on social media, so many videos of guys taking videos of girls, like women, I mean, it's intimidating for someone that isn't really comfortable in the gym. I can go in there and ignore everybody around me, but most women that especially are trying out, or if you have body image issues in any shape, or you feel bad about how you look, the gym is the absolute worst place to start. So again, that barrier, we are adding a barrier that is unnecessary, because we can teach women to do it at the house, we can do it outside. Let's start there, and then when you feel comfortable, because I think that women, when you feel more comfortable doing the movements and you feel stronger in that, you don't care about anybody looking at you because you feel strong in it. But going in there, even with a trainer at a gym, is so uncomfortable for most people. And so, yeah, so I think we need to, I'm all about, I've been doing this for how long now? And my tone, given that when I first started out, over 2 decades ago, I was that trainer that is like, let's just do it, and I'm going to show you how to do this stuff. And my tune over the 25 plus years is all about removing that initial barrier. I can't, I'm tired of having women set these boundaries, or like the barriers that we can remove. But then my approach seems so simplistic, right? So some women, I think, look at me like, what do you mean just body weight stuff? That's not going to get me long, lean. I use that. And I said, you're not ready to start over here. And most of the women I talk to, when I say this, you can feel the load coming off of them. Because I
Yeah.
feel it's almost like someone giving them permission to not have to achieve, like aim for this thing that they know they're not ready to do. So we just, we need to be the ones that say, no, it's perfectly okay to just, hey, if you do 10 squats today that you didn't do yesterday, guess
Yep.
what? That's 10 squats you did more than you did yesterday. That's progression. That's
Yeah.
when we talk about progressive resistance training. It's adding 5 more squats every day or doing 5 squats and 5 push-ups tomorrow. That's what it is, but it seems so simple. And I'm not charging you $99 for, for it.
Yeah. Excellent points. And you mentioned body image, which is something you and I have done entire shows on. Is that is that something that you are working on in this platform as well with Respin? Does that come up?
100%. I think to me, and one big thing about Respin is that there's no micromanaging of the coaches. So we are experts, all of us are experts at what we do. And so our coaching is not being, there isn't a, you need to do X, Y, Z, and it needs to be in that rotation because every woman and every cohort is so different. We adjust to what is needed. And I can tell you that 99.9% of women, including myself, as we've talked about, right? We've talked about this a lot, have some sort of body image issue that is unaddressed. And until I firmly believe, until that is addressed, you will not feel right. Like there's always something that you're trying to modify that you may not be able to modify. So, I've worked with hundreds of women, but there is that always, I just don't understand why I can't work out more and get rid of this belly fat. And I just don't understand why it doesn't work anymore. And why can't you give me a solution? I need you to tell me that if I do this, it will go away. And that's just not who I am. So, but
Yeah.
yes, to me, this is a passion topic. I truly, truly believe that when we start untangling that are the layers of that onion, the body image onion, you're not making, you can make progress, but you're not truly attacking the source of it. And sometimes that means talking about trauma that is in the past. Sometimes it is, so finding out that origin story is really important. And that's really painful sometimes. And sometimes it isn't, but sometimes it really is. And not to say that if you're not ready to touch that little thing, we don't, but it is important to make that progress to get in that place where what I call the valley of neutrality, where we can feel neutral most of the time about our bodies and not to criticize it, but not feel positive, but not feel negative, but kind of like in that middle where you're like, it's okay. I don't have to like it, but I also am not going to let it ruin my day. I'm not going to let it stop me from doing things that I want to do. But I think that that is crucial to the body image discussion is that it is okay to not feel okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to like it. I do look in the mirror sometimes like, this is really, I didn't see this coming. Uh, you know, I never, 10 years, even 10 years ago or 20 years ago for sure, I'm just like, I don't think that I would have seen this coming, but there's nothing I can do about it. And I know this in my heart, but I don't have to like it. I don't have to look in the mirror and be like, yeah, Maria, love it. Because that's a lie again. And I think that that's critical to the narrative around body image because we're giving women the option to say, you have to love it or you have to hate it. But there is a space in the middle where you cannot like it and still not get derailed by it. And that's a beautiful place to be because it's not acceptance. I hate to use it because I feel like when you say acceptance, a lot of women think, oh, you tell me to give up. And but yeah.
Yeah. It's funny trying to parse the language around it
Mm-hmm.
all. And at the same time, acceptance is something that needs to happen at some level because if you're going to live to the ripe old age of 80 something, your body is going to change. You're going to have some wrinkles, you're going to have all kinds of things. And I've always looked at this transition as a dress rehearsal, maybe for aging, like a good time
I love
to,
that.
yeah, get your mind set around
Yeah.
that and everything you just talked about. Just you don't necessarily have to be like, well, I love these changes, but at the same time, you can move forward with a joyful, incredible, happy, active, vital life while you still have maybe some cellulite you didn't have before or a wrinkle you did, all the things.
Hmm. Yeah, I love the dress rehearsal narrative, or that visual. I can see it because you're absolutely right. I think that because 40, I think 45 to like maybe 65 is there's such a huge change because we're still attached to the no loose skin period. And then we're getting into like past 65, maybe it's almost unavoidable to have somewhere that something's a little less firm. But in that time frame, we're still holding on so tight that we can. And you see all the images that are clearly, I mean, and there's some women that it doesn't fall into that, or who knows what they've done to themselves. But it's a critical window because we're still holding on, being we're not ready to see that other side. But we can look at other women that are in their 70s and 80s and say, like, wow, I want that confidence. But
Yes.
no one's saying, well, I want that confidence. Confidence is usually attached to someone that has loose skin and wrinkles, but they're confident because they don't give a shit anymore
Yeah.
about what people think. Because I think after 70, you fall away from the social media eye of criticism because no one's going to criticize a 70 plus. But we fall into that 20 because they don't care, so it's not fun. But we are fall into that midlife part, and we are susceptible to someone picking on us, right? Because
Yeah.
we're supposed to be like J-Lo, or do look at this one that bounced back from pregnancy after 45 and still looks amazing. So we know those are unachievable goals, but still, it's hard to let go.
And even though we have made progress, and I do believe we have made progress, when Nayad came out a couple of years ago and Jodie Foster and Annette Bening and they looked real, I thought, wow, that's nice. Wow, what great progress. And then, and I'm not bagging on anybody, but then you see something like The Substance come out, and I
Uh,
love Demi Moore, but boy, there's a lot of mixed messaging in there, because there's been work. There's 100% been work that she has done to look the way she does at 60, whatever. And what is the message that we need to continue to, as you're saying, hang on with everything we have so we don't look older? It's a sticky wicket, Maria.
Oh, no, 100%, because you're always going to say the wrong thing. But because I truly believe that every woman has the right to make whatever choice she needs to
Yep,
make.
I
So
do
if
too.
plastic surgery is what you need to do, or that is an external, someone's fixing something that you think is wrong with you, I think it's all almost, and again, like you said, we're going to say the wrong things
No,
here, but
just say that. I don't care.
it's almost
Let's be
less
70-year-old
damaging.
women and just talk.
I
Anyway.
know. I know. I feel like it is almost a little less damaging than someone that is constantly like trying to over obsess over the micro details
Mm.
of their workouts and their diet, and that it's so consuming when you're constantly trying to say, well, I'm not good enough, I need to do more, and I'm not doing the right thing. And they get caught up in someone, again, selling them a solution that isn't there, and that they're probably already doing. And I think the people, in my experience, the people that have the hardest time accepting any kind of body image related issues are those that have always been very physically active and that have been able to manipulate and control the way they look by how they exercise. And so when that doesn't work anymore, which is their entire identity, it's almost like an identity crisis. So if you tell them, hey, Maria, I just don't, what else do I need to do? I'm already eating the right stuff. I'm already doing all this stuff. And I said, well, I'm sorry to tell you, but there really isn't anything else to do besides working on that mind. We need to
Yeah.
address that relationship you have with your physical self, because most people are not receptive when they're in that stage, because it feels like giving up if you are saying you're already doing all the things. But they're like, no, but there has to be another thing. And someone is always ready to sell that other thing. But I'm going to tell you that there isn't another thing you can do besides relax. Because I do feel like you're not giving your body enough rest. And I do feel like you're over obsessing, and nothing's going to change. And I said, what would be the worst case scenario if you couldn't do anything about it? And that's the question that I always ask, that what would happen to yourself, like mentally, if everything you're doing is all that you can do and there's nothing else you can do about it, then you have to sit down and really have a heart to heart to say, am I going to hate my body the rest of my life? Or am I going to say, I'm doing the best I can? And this is the body that it's serving me right now. And there's a reason why it is the way it is. And I may not know the reason, but why don't I show appreciation to this now body? Like the now, not the tomorrow, not the yesterday, but right now. Why don't I give it a little love?
Yeah. And you've been part of the Navigate Menopause course that we do over here. And we do a module on weight. You come in and talk about body image with that. But I sometimes find that there's a bit of an exhale that happens when we get to that point where
Mhm.
women are who have been fighting and fighting and looking and looking and fighting and looking exhale when somebody finally says, sometimes it is what it is.
Mhm.
And I think that that releases them from feeling like they're doing something wrong or that
Mhm.
they just need to try harder or they just all these things. And it can be a letting go of things that are occupying them every day, all day, that
Mhm.
just don't serve you in enjoying this so short period of time we have on this planet.
Yeah. One thing that's really resonated with a lot, because even in training, there's always a different cue that works for different people. So I always
Yep.
try to say more things and different things because one of them will stick for that person. And so I was talking about, I was in a group cohort and I was talking about grief. And I think we were talking about grief in a like someone lost a person. But I said, when we talk about body image, we don't talk about how you have to be able to grieve your body, your old body. And I posted this on social media, got a lot of really more responses than I thought and how it resonated with women, because we don't talk about that it is a part of the process is of that letting go is to say, I am sad, I grieve, and that is okay. But if you don't grieve your body and you give it that like big hooray, like a send off on that, put it on a ship and light the fire, and like, like do
Like the
a
ice
whole
flow. See?
do like a Nordic kind of burial, make it fun. But grieve it, like make it, acknowledge it, say, you have served me so well. I have loved everything about it, but I can't hold on to it anymore. I need to let it go. Instead of saying you just have to go on, like accept or fight it even more. So grieving lets you let go of that part and give yourself time to appreciate and to give care to the body that you have right now. And when you actually are able to do that, the sense of like what you were saying, that sense of like is huge, because then you can focus on, oh my God, I'm stronger than I used to be in my 20s. I talk about it myself because we've talked about this. I've had huge body image issues most of my adult life. And I can now look, and I thank all the women that I've talked to too, because I've had to talk about it so much and be vulnerable and be honest with myself about it. Is I can look back and say, I hated and did not love my body when I thought it was at its best looking now, right? The leanest, the
Yep.
most muscular. I didn't like it because I
Yep.
wasn't happy back then. And I don't, so now I know that I am the strongest I've ever been. I have all of these injuries and things I can't do anymore. But within those constraints, I'm the happiest I've ever been with myself and with my life and with all of everything that's around it. And I think that is part also on why where I'm at now. It's just I feel I'm in a space that is really open. And I'm also in a space where I can set really hard boundaries. And that's a skill. And I think it comes with midlife as well. Don't we all look forward to the women that are just like, I want to be that grumpy old woman. I want to be that grumpy old woman that says, no, I don't want to. And you can grumpy all I want. That's a boundary. Like that grumpy is a boundary. And I don't
Yeah.
really care. And so that I'm able to acknowledge that if this is what happiness looks like, if I need to be in this body where I'm at now to be where I'm at as a whole person, I'll take it. I don't want to be where I used to be, 20 years ago, because it wasn't a whole person happiness. It was love my body and don't appreciate it, but I wasn't happy anywhere else in my life. So,
I love that.
I think that is, it doesn't apply to everyone, obviously. some women do feel like I felt better when I was in my 20s. I loved my body better, and now I just don't. So I don't want to generalize. But I think for a lot of us, it is that over romanticizing of our past self. And we need to just have a good heart to heart with ourselves and say, maybe a little lying to ourselves about it. So let's sit down and talk about it. And that's when the true magic happens. As you probably noticed in your course, when you get people together and talk and really talk more, and then you talk more, and then people share, and then so
That is, as you mentioned up at the top, community. The magic really does happen in the community, no matter what.
yeah.
So you did your dissertation for your doctorate on women in menopause. What exactly was the topic?
It was evaluating the relationship between physical activity and quality of life in through the perimenopausal transition. And so my big thing since then has been the quality of life perspective, not the um, what you look like perspective. Like it's always been, and given it's a dissertation, so it's a small study,
Yeah.
but it was all about figuring out what intensity level of physical activity gives women the highest quality of life. And so that was based on a survey in the beginning, based on a survey at the end from 60 some women. And for me, I'm a high intensity girl. I love high intensity, so it gives me the most quality of life. But I found out that moderate intensity activity for the women that I've worked with is the highest quality of life. And I think for me, that was super surprising because I really thought, well, man, the more at that point still, the more people work out. And that's really changed also my outlook on how I look at it, because moderate intensity activity for most women is doable. And it also fits within what they're doing, and it's achievable. And so from a quality of life perspective, which is different for every single person, what quality of life means, it was the highest score. And to me, still to this point, is a crucial part of the equation of what type of movement someone should do, because it includes the joy factor. I would love to do a study on like the joy factor of it all, because I think that that's so crucial to the equation. So when women are able to say, well, I for my quality of life, I love dancing and I can do that every day. Well, then you should do that. Resistance training is important, but if you have to force yourself, I can talk up a storm about how important resistance training is, and I would love for everyone to do it, and I'd love to find ways for women to do it, but sometimes it just doesn't. And when you discourage people from doing things that they enjoy and give up something, or give up things that they enjoy to do something that they just are so against it, then you are taking away that thing that they enjoy, which is quality of life. So
I agree so much with that. I say that a lot because I've heard too much recently women say, I love running, but I stopped running because I'm not supposed to during this time. And I'm like, whoa, 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 let's stop. Let's stop the train. So like it's gone off the rails here. Let's talk about this. So it is really important. Like these are I give, you give, all of us in the space are just giving the broadest guidelines we can, as you say, based on science, based on evidence, and what matters most is your quality of life.
yeah, it just doesn't matter if you are, again, we're talking about 20 years ago where I was doing all this stuff and I had the leanest body. I wasn't happy. So it's just, what does a lean, strong body do for you if you're miserable in it? So you're ready. We know, people love to talk about the Mediterranean lifestyle, well, the diet really, but I grew up in Germany. My parents are in Spain. They are living the actual Mediterranean lifestyle. And I can tell you that no one in my family has ever gone into a gym and done resistance training. And they're
Yeah.
all living really long lives because you know what? My mom at 70, mid 70s, 76 now, she hikes up a mountain every day for 2 hours, chit-chatting and gossiping away for 2 hours up and down. And when you're talking about cardiovascular fitness, the talk test has nothing on those women. I'm huffing and puffing after them, but she does this every day. And, she moves around and moves flower pots that are heavy as shit. And that stuff we need to talk about that. We need to
Oh,
talk that it isn't an equation that it's the recipe is different for every single person. So when you're talking, I hate when people talk about the Mediterranean lifestyle and then don't take into account that people in the Mediterranean, what that is considered, they just move more.
yeah.
Every day, all day, they're moving. They're not sitting behind a desk for 8 to 10 hours and then watching TV for another hour, but then they do an hour of high core Peloton training. Um,
Yeah, it's not the omega-3 fatty acids or the resveratrol or all the things that they try to pull out as the magic of that. It is the
yeah.
whole picture and the community and the daily. I've often said that gyms are a sign that society is not well for us. Like we have to go to a gym. Do you know what I mean? I appreciate that I have belonged to them. I understand them. They serve a very important purpose. And I also feel sad that we need them. I guess is what I feel. Because to your point, I wish that we had more of a lifestyle that allowed for us to be lifting heavy things and moving and having all of this stuff in our life as opposed to I need to do these things so I don't because they're not apparent in my everyday existence.
Yes. And I mean, we're talking then, culturally, we would have our infrastructure would have to change.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
looking at, and again, the Mediterranean
If
lifestyle.
I
It
was
is,
queen of everything, it would. But anyway.
yeah, everything. Like there's so many things wrong. So it's great that we have access to more gyms and
Yeah,
different types of gyms. But there is a real problem with it because we have this notion that that's where you need to go to do
right.
real workouts. Like those
Right.
are the only ones that count. The other ones are like a pastime that is a subpar. And sadly, the narrative, everywhere, even from people that sadly have too many followers, talk about walking not being an like that doesn't really count. Like walking is not exercise, which what? I mean, we not have more signs on walking than any other activity, and it consistently shows the improvement of just walking. It's the risk factors, the health, over and over and over and over again. But somehow we're in this surreal space where people are saying that walking doesn't count because it's not real exercise. And so that's again another barrier when people enjoy their walks with their dogs or their walks with their friends. And then you're saying, yeah, but that doesn't count. Like you need to do something else other than that. And then they give that up to join some gym and hate their life. But that they gave up this one thing that really, really like did something for them. And now they're
Right.
not doing because they gave up on it. So man, it just sorry, it just really gets me going, that kind of narrative.
I understand. I fully understand. So So you did your dissertation on that so many years ago, and now you're involved with Respin, and you've been part of this very rapid evolution of everything in the menopause space just in the past 4 years, right? Just the past 5 years. It's been head spinning how fast it's gone. What do you want to accomplish in this space now with everything that we're seeing and how, take yourself from your dissertation and what you were hoping to accomplish then and how you would like to take all of your knowledge and what's happening now. What are your goals in this space?
Well, I think honestly, my mission really hasn't changed at all. I think that, being part of Respin gives hopefully helps spread the message a little wider because I do think that we need the repetition of that. We just need to move more and we need to have a little bit more joy. We do need to know the benefits of strength training. And I will talk about this over and over and over and over again. And I can it doesn't have to be a different path. I think the messaging may change, but I haven't changed my tune in 15 plus years. And it's still the same one. I don't think it will change because the work hasn't been finished. And I honestly, as you know, with the noise, the amount of noise that is happening right now, the fact it becomes this kind of focused narrative is so important for women to be able to say, I have to find somewhere where I can get credible information that kind of tunes out the noise. And I want to be that. Like, I want to be continuing to be that person that just doesn't sell any bullshit and doesn't say stuff that I know is not right to say. And so I will continue having the simple message, the very simple message that is the things that we know to be true are movement and a nutritious diet and taking care of your mental health are the three pillars of good health and good quality of life. And that doesn't change. It's never going to change. It's never been different. It's always been the same. But we're constantly being told that there's a different spin on it, and just as it hasn't changed. And so for me, I think I want to continue simplifying and removing barriers for women. That's the big one. I want to remove barriers. What's your individual challenge and barrier? Let's just get rid of them. And then let's
Yeah.
see where you are. I've always been big on meeting women where they are, not where I think they should be, but like, where are you really today?
Yeah. That's very, very important. Do you Are the women who I'm just curious about sort of demographically where we're at and what you're seeing. Do you find women coming to you who are experiencing things in perimenopause that they might not have understood as perimenopause years ago? You know, right now we have a better understanding that you've got like anxiety and some of these body composition changes, like stuff that happens before we're technically in menopause with the hot flashes and everything that might come a little later. Or are you seeing people who are post-menopause, like, or is it across the board? What does it look like?
It's really across the board, but I'm hopeful because I see more women coming in before perimenopause. So there's more women that are coming in trying to educate themselves
Mhm.
about it, about the passage. But there's also lots of women that are already in postmenopause and have not had the education, but they now see what it was, and they still experiencing some of it, but they know the benefit of more education, and they also know the benefit of bone health and strength training in postmenopause, which becomes much more important, right? So the narrative then back, like, once people are in that deep kind of postmenopause, the physical self, taking really care of your physical self, like the strength part of it all, becomes so much more important. They the osteoporosis diagnoses go up, and that I've had several women that reached out to me that that's their reason. Like, they get diagnosed, they didn't see it coming, and now it's like, whoops, my lifestyle has to change, because now
Yeah,
I have to really watch out that I don't do something wrong and break my spine. And so it's all of it. But I am hopeful because I see more women like in their late 30s, early 40s that are like, I feel like it's coming up. I should just kind of know what's about to happen. And when you have a cohort of women, so last year when we did our MVP, it was really beautiful because we had women that are not in they're premenopause still, trying to learn, and women that are in postmenopause, and you almost bring these together of just the experience of all of it, just like a baby chick coming in and being folded into all of the experience of the women that already gone through it. And that was so amazing to watch, of just the community aspect of, let me show you what I didn't know, and here's what how it turned out for me and where I'm at. That is really great, because I think we're going to have a whole generation of women that come in prepared,
totally,
and that's
totally.
all we can do.
That's the goal here. So I love what you're doing. I always love catching up with you. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you wanted to leave our audience with, or anything you want to leave our audience with, period?
No, I think I've said it all. Anything you can take from this is that there isn't a one size fits all solution. There just isn't. And if anybody sells you that, they're lying. It is all about taking that one step tomorrow that you're not taking today. That's it. That it's like tiny little baby step. And one thing that has helped me, a strategy personally, is that I try, and I say try because it's something that's in the works, to start every day judgment free. Like, I'm not paying for the sins of yesterday and sins of whatever you think is a sin yesterday. And I'm also not doing things today, planning to do something else tomorrow. It's just today. I wake up today, set an intention, check in with my body. How does it feel today? Not how it should feel. And then I base my workouts on that, and I base how I'm going to go about the day, because then you can truly be most beneficial to your body and your mental self as well, like a whole approach. And I think that that's really served me well during perimenopause, because every day is a mess. Sometimes it can be great, but you just don't know what's going to hit you the next day. Sometimes, it's not that erratic, but sometimes it is. Sometimes you planned a huge workout that day and then you had insomnia all night. It's great to check in the morning and say, you know what? Maybe mobility is the day today, or some yoga or a walk or a bike ride or something. And that, I mean, if you can adjust every day like that, and I say try, that's a great place to be, to just say, today's today. Tomorrow will be tomorrow, but today is today.
Amen. Mic drop moment. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being back on the show.
Yay, thank you. I'll come back anytime, Celine.
Thank you. Well, that is our show. Come on back next week when I sit down with ultra runner Megan Eastwood, who at the age of 55 shares how she almost quit during menopause, but learned some strategies that turned it all around for her and allowed her to keep crushing it for ridiculously long adventures out on the trail. So come on back for that. And until then, you know what to do. As always, stay feisty. You've been listening to Hit Play, Not Pause, a feisty menopause podcast for active, performance-minded women. I'm your host, Celine Yeager. The show is edited and produced by the strong, talented, and amazing women at Live Feisty Media. Follow us on social media at Feisty Menopause, and please help us spread the word. Screenshot and share this episode on your social media channels with the tag @FeistyMenopause. Share the show with your friends, and please subscribe, like, review, and rate this show wherever you get your podcasts. Word of mouth and good reviews make it easier for other listeners to find. Thanks for listening, and as always, stay feisty.